want to be kind just to make sure I don't get copyright struck.
So what do you feel about James Fishback and his plan to tax you 50% as a sin tax for being a sinner?
I mean, I'm going to be honest, it's ridiculous. It's very ridiculous. Florida already has no income state tax. It doesn't exist. So it seems very selective, and it seems like it's a punishment.
James.
Okay, women in accountability. Maybe more iconic duo that doesn't exist. You should never feel bad about how much millionaires and billionaires get taxed. You should not care. You really shouldn't. Honestly, we should tax millionaires like myself even more. I'm paying 44% in taxes, and I take that, you know, I mean, it sucks, but I understand the very privileged life that I get to live with the immense amount of wealth that I have. It's absolutely
Why are you punishing her?
Well, hey, Sophie, good to meet you. It's not a punishment at all. What it is a deterrent. I think Sophie recognizes that our state was better off when young women aspired to be teachers, small business owners, doctors, and lawyers.
All right, Tectone, I appreciate this. You brought this to my attention here. Let me stop right there before Tectone goes into his rant, which is going to be very, very based. I'm sure I might agree with Tectone, but the thing is, I disagree with Fishback here. No, the problem is not exclusively the people like this. The problem is also you women becoming lawyers and doctors and theoretical astrozoologists. Because when that happens objectively, right, if there's a few women who become doctors and lawyers and teachers and theoretical zoologists, that's okay for the civilization at first. But when that becomes the norm, when women become men and then men become women, that is the problem. That is what is driving you extinct as a culture, the West, and the species. So here's the thing. Every now and again we get somebody like Trump who's essentially just a Democrat from the 90s, or like this guy who's he's just a liberal extinctionist from the 1960s, right? And they come and they sound better than going extinct, right? They sound better than just being crazy and ignoring objective reality. So we put our voices behind them. But the problem is, this is just as much the problem as this. When your women are doctors and teachers and astrotheoretical zoologists, then what happens is, what happened the last 100 years? And here you are. What happens is, when the women have, here's what happened over the course of the last 100 years. World War II. Women joined the workforce, helped make the ammunition, and the feminists loved it because the feminists and also the people who funded that kind of Marxist, and it was Marxist even back then, revolution, so to speak, loved it. And so what happened was then women stayed in the workforce. Some of them wanted to, and the people funding that movement wanted them to. And so what happened is now there's twice as many workers for the same amount of jobs, because the war jobs for the most went away until the forever wars came back, essentially. But for the most part, you have twice as many jobs. Sorry, twice as many workers, half the same amount of jobs, so half as many jobs. That's one problem. But then what happens culturally over time, when women become men, and then men, whether they become women or they're just trying to compete with the women at being men, the women never go for like construction for the most part. They never go for the really dirty jobs, the building jobs. But they do go for a lot of jobs that men objectively do better, like teaching, like doctors. And sure, it makes sense to have some female doctors, and it makes sense to give people more freedom. But when you get to the point, which we are at now, where women are incentivized more to be men than to be women, you go extinct. And so Fishback is as much as the problem, at least if he actually believes the words that he's speaking out of his mouth, as Sophie Rain, because the problem has been the last 100 years of Marxist feminism. That is why you are going extinct. That is a big part of it. When women are men, then what they want is a man who's more man than they are. But what you have is women make great men, apparently. And when you might not like it, but they're great at some types of schools, and maybe they're not as good at STEM, but they're great at running fast food restaurants, and they're great at coding sometimes, and they're great at this, that, and whatever. And so when they're men, they expect a man more man than they are. And so what has become our culture has become this thing where to be a man, you have to have $1 million. And so if you've got $1 million as a whammy, you're now a man. Congratulations. But all the men who, because the market is flooded with not only women workers, but also illegal workers, 40 million illegals, 50 million H-1Bs and other types of legal visas, 90 million extra workers, but not enough jobs, and then they're cutting the jobs and thinking that AI is going to replace humans. Not quite that fast, but they're cutting jobs faster than they're replacing jobs. And basically, you get to the point where now most men can never be a quote man because they're not making $1 million, but plenty of women, not the majority of people who are in OnlyFans. Mind you, she's like the 0.0003%, and she markets her content to kids, by the way, to males under the age of 18, right, on TikTok and wherever. And so as soon as they turn 18, they can go subscribe to her OnlyFans. But the problem is also this: normalizing women being men. We've done that for 100 years. How's that worked out for you? You're going extinct. This is the problem. Men and women are different. Sex roles, not gender roles. Get rid of this gender bullshit. And so I had to react to this because clearly you're getting it wrong again, right? Listen, I don't know him personally, but he sounds like Trump from 10 years ago. It's just a liberal from 10 years ago. You can't fix the problems of Marxist feminism and excessive extinctionist liberalism with liberalism from 10 or 15 years ago. You have to have an extremely radical traditional approach. And the problem is, you can't get that radical traditional approach from, insert random Christian ideology here or Islam. Because Islam has its own problems, ton of them. And the problem with the Christian religions is, as a culture, as religion, they work fine. Faith is one thing different from religion, but then as a culture, they failed you. They all didn't work. They didn't stop this. Objectively, you need a new culture. This is what I'm talking about. But let's continue Tectone's rant for a few minutes here. Go subscribe to Tectone.
And
Rebel.com/Tectone.
Video broke because a truth nuke just dropped.
As opposed to creating adult content.
Facts. The fact that there is 3.8% of women in the United States.
I thought it was higher, by the way. I thought it was higher than 3.8%.
Between the ages of 18 and 24 that have an OnlyFans is fucking ridiculous. That is fucking ridiculous.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Essentially, the American dream has become this kind of work. You have to actually make over $1 million to hit the American dream at this point in time, because what you're up against is radical, insane inflation. And to get a loan for a house, you have to have like $200,000 income a year or something like that. And so basically, what we're at here is the breakaways like this, or maybe Tectone as well, a much more based breakaway, mind you, but the breakaways are now the American dream, not the standard, not going to a factory and working a job for 50 hours a week and then having enough money to buy a house and 3 cars and 1 wife and 15 kids, mind you, but the culture that promotes radical feminism, the culture that promotes Marxism, Marxist feminism, the culture that promotes women being men, the culture that promotes sex work of all kinds, the culture that promotes essentially just spending money on things you don't need just excessively. is the culture that is going extinct. That is your culture. It's not woke culture. Let me remind you. It's not just woke culture that is extinctionist. It's the 1970s, 1990s culture of sex, drug, and rock and roll. It's the default American culture that you grow up loving before they started calling things woke. That is what is going extinct. It's excessive. It's wasteful. It's suicidal. It is what is driving the species, or at least the West, extinct. And so the elite's trying to replace you with cheap labor. But when the cheap labor adopts your culture, our culture, our American culture, our Western cultures that are going extinct, they too will go extinct. And so basically, what you need to fight it is the only thing you can fight it with is a culture that actually is radically traditional in the sense that it puts people back in their sex roles. You've got to take away all rights to give people back duties, and you have to have a smaller group of people. You start small, because if you've got a giant empire and anyone in the whole world can work for that giant empire, and some people can work cheaper than others because they don't even live in the empire, right? That's not going to work. It's not sustainable. Every empire falls because of the same reasons. Cheap labor, culture decay, and excessive elites who are out of touch. Some other things as well. Having foreigners in your army.
That is nearly 1 million women in the United States who have a OnlyFans.
It's more than that. I know it's more than that. I think his numbers are off.
You want to know why? Because women on the internet are pushing and popularizing this shit and not showing you what's going to happen when you have an OnlyFans and you don't make it. Congratulations. Everybody in your college now knows what your asshole looks like, and they paid $2. It's a disgusting business to promote.
Well, it's not just that it's disgusting. You can see something. Its fruit, its outcome should be something that's important as well. For example, you could say that this is disgusting, but you could have, let's say, poker. Right? Poker is not a disgusting game. It's just a fun game that you play, and you don't bet too much. You'll probably not lose too much. But if you look at outcome, you should also judge something by its outcome. And here's the thing with people like this. They are succubus. They are vampires of the civilization. They're vampires of the culture. They're vampires of a society. Because what they do is they prey on people. Essentially, the reason why people give her money, it's not even for sex, because they can't have sex with her. They never have sex with her. The reason why they give her money, there's plenty of free porn. The reason why they're giving her money is because they build a parasocial relationship with her. And they have some sort of subconscious thinking that she's their girlfriend. It's not even for a gratification. Because gratification, you can get plenty of that for free. And you can just have an infinite variety. No, the reason why OnlyFans has made so much money for Israel and other places is because you build this parasocial relationship with these people, and you subconsciously think that you have a girlfriend. And she's so pretty. She's just for me. I gotta give her money. I'll give more money than all the other simps, right? That's a vampiric relationship. That's not a symbiotic relationship, right? That is a vampire relationship. She gets everything that she wants. She thinks she wants. Here's the thing. She thinks she's 21. She thinks in 9 years that she can have kids, have a family, have everything she ever wanted. But she doesn't realize that she's cornering herself up against the wall by this strategy of being a man, making money. And most women don't realize, because they were indoctrinated. We were all indoctrinated. It's not just, even from before the boomers. This has been hundreds of years of indoctrination. You were raised by evil. You were taught that everything good is wrong, and basically engineered to extinction. This is where we need a new culture, and it is a superior culture, because it is fighting extinction. That's the whole point of the culture, is to fight extinction. Everything unnatural, everything unhealthy, everything that pushes you into extinction. And so the idea is, right, now to make the $1 million, you have to be an OnlyFans whore, or you got to be a content curator, or you've got to do some sort of crazy thing to get money, power, and fame, right? Because to stand out, you can't just be all like reacting to Tectone on the internet, probably, like react to Tectone, react to Piers Morgan, react to Fishback. But the reason why I wanted to show this was I wanted to highlight how actually I think Fishback is wrong. And these two are acting like he's already won the race, but I just looked it up. It doesn't look like the race is finished yet. I don't know what that's all about. Is this from the future? I don't know. But let me know what you think in a comment below. And that's all for here.